We are back with Music Theory 101, and in this video, we are looking at the difference between pentatonic versus diatonic. And no, they are not usually hyphenated. I just did that for the purposes of displaying the difference between these two very common scales. And so when we talk about pentatonic scales versus diatonic scales, we're talking about 5-note scales versus 7-note scales. Now, 5-note scales, pentatonic scales, are the most common type of music made around the world. Most of the world plays in some form of pentatonic scales. Diatonic scales are more common in what we call Western music, classical music, music that we're probably familiar with, like classical and pop. But pentatonic music or pentatonic scales still have a place in lots of music, regardless of whether the foundation is diatonic or chromatic. And we'll talk about chromaticism in another video. But let me give you some examples of pentatonic versus diatonic. Two most common, not the only kind of scales that there are, certainly, but two of the most common terms or types of scales that you're going to run into. So penta, meaning 5, means that we have 5 notes in the scale. So one easy way to identify a 5-note scale is to play the black keys on the piano, because we've got a group of 3 and a group of 2, right? So if we want to have a pentatonic scale, we can just play the black keys. And in this case, we would have G-flat major pentatonic, or we could have E-flat kind of minor sound. Now, a pentatonic scale is actually not major or minor. It's an incomplete scale, so technically it doesn't have a major or minor key, but we usually do call them major and minor just because that's kind of how we interpret them. But a pentatonic scale can be used over lots of different backgrounds or grounds. As a foreground, you can use a pentatonic scale. For example, you can use the C pentatonic scale in the A major blues. So just the fact that you're playing a pentatonic scale doesn't mean you're limited in the music that you can play over or play with. Now, so pentatonic meaning 5-note. Now, there are different kinds of 5-note scales. You can have a 5-note scale that has a little more of an exotic twist to it. You can have a 5-note scale that has these notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are my 5 notes. So just the fact that you have a pentatonic scale or a 5-note scale doesn't mean that you have a scale that always sounds the same like our typical pentatonic. It can have an exotic sound. So what I would invite you to do is to sit down at a keyboard, if you get the chance, and come up with all kinds of different pentatonic scales. Maybe you can just pick different notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, actually, I just picked an E-flat major pentatonic. But try to do something even crazier. Maybe I could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then make music with that scale. All right, so penta just meaning 5, 5-note scale, lots of different kinds. Some can sound major, some can sound minor, some can sound diminished, all sorts of different possibilities with a pentatonic scale. In fact, sometimes when we limit ourselves in music, we choose fewer notes to work with, we can actually feel more creative because we don't have to worry about which notes we're using. We can just play music and emote and make choices based on what's available to us given our rules that we impose. We call those play rules. So nothing wrong with pentatonic scales, lots of music to be made. All right, diatonic scales are what we think of really is our typical Western scale, and that is a 7-note scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 8 would be our repeat of the first note, our octave. And those typically, you can have a major scale like I just played. I tried to play. Or you can have a minor scale. Still 7 notes, but we can change some of the notes, you know, sharpen some of them, flatten some of them, and have different kinds of scales. There is a 6-note scale called a whole tone. That's not pentatonic or diatonic, is it? All right. But most of the music that we play is either pentatonic based, often pentatonic based, or it's diatonic based, which would be our kind of standard Western music scales. One last thing I want to leave you with is that the pentatonic scale is usually, not always, but is often omitting the 4th and the 7th of the scale. So if we have a C diatonic and we want to make that nice C pentatonic open sound, we take off the 4th and the 7th. And the reason the pentatonic scale sounds so harmonious is because basically what we've done is we've deleted or we've eliminated 3 tension intervals, 3 tension spots. We've eliminated the half step between the 3rd and the 4th. We've eliminated the half step between the 7th and the root. And we've also eliminated the tritone between the 4th and the 7th. So by getting rid of all those pesky, complex relationships, we open up the harmony to intervals that are more consonant, and thereby we create what I call the wind chime effect, where you can play all the notes together and they sound great. And that's one of the things that we like about the pentatonic scale, especially for early education and for people who are not as experienced with music to the point where they can consciously choose a lot of the notes in the scale. So we start off with the pentatonic scale, a little bit of safety built in there, musical safety. It's kind of like bowling with the bumpers on, you know, a little bit like that. All right, that's what I have for you in this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. What you can do from this point is to go off and find a keyboard, play some different scales, play some pentatonic scales, some diatonic scales, and experiment and discover some cool things on your own, all right? If you'd like to discover more cool things with my help, you can visit us at patreon.com/Kalani, where we have lots of courses. Of course, if you'd like to chip in, your help is always appreciated. But whatever you do, I hope you enjoy playing music and discovering. We'll see you soon. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.